तू भी कर ले.
1, 2, 3.
हम ना पॉल थॉमस एंडरसन की फिल्मोग्राफी के ऊपर लंबा सा वीडियो बनाएंगे. Observations that we both made throughout the cinematic universe of Paul Thomas Anderson's desire for an ideal father figure. Sorry, I'm eating an apple. The next one is the maternal figure as a catalyst for conflict.
Like especially in The Master, Freddie is traumatized by what happened to his mother. He talks about when Lancaster don't ask him, what about your father? So he has no hesitation telling he's dead. But the moment he's asked about what about the mother, there's not he can't speak. And the stress on his face is so tactile. When he's talking about his mother, it's like his trauma is apart from the war and everything, but his personal trauma is not only that he has to see his mother go to this psychotic loony bin. There's a guilt-ridden aspect that he left a girl and never got back to her. The girl he loved the most. These two female figures that one he couldn't help and one he couldn't stand by.
Also, the film, opens when we meet him. He's on a beach with a group of other soldiers, and they've built a sex doll kind of thing with the sand on the beach, impressing upon the viewers the lack of women in their lives and how it's hardened them into these absolute despicable, unlikable, manly, masculine men because there are just no women in their lives. It is important to have female presence in your life. I found this missing in Inherent Vice.
I'm like, I have no idea what the film is about.
Me neither. I watched the film, but I feel like if I watch it again, I'll just like watch a whole new film together.
But there is definitely an aspect of longing for love.
But then it's not maternal.
It's not maternal. Okay, we'll talk about this one particular aspect
later. Okay. Now, obvious, इसमें सबसे ज़्यादा obvious है आपका Phantom Thread. Reynolds Woodcock it has a very unhealthy obsession with his dead mother. So much so that when she reappears as a hallucination, when he's sick and he's feverish, she appears in a wedding dress that he designed for her for her second wedding. And that's why he's probably fixating on that, because probably after she got married again, she stopped paying attention to him because she had a new life, a new man in her life. And that is something that he's not been able to let go of. The film does not spell it out. And that is my meaning that I'm making into this. There is his sister Cyril, who controls his business, his affairs, and also the women that he's going to date and how the women are going to behave around him. She controls that to that extent. So obviously, maternal conflict is the most obvious in Phantom Thread, right?
Absolutely. And it's the curse of the past, almost like. He is cursed, and it's a self-inflicting curse. He has convinced himself that the death of his mother has something to do with him. Now he has to live with it, and he has to carry it to the point, like literally, he sews it in his waistcoat.
Dresses. The way
he's carrying the
his
curse
mother's
of the
hair
family together. So now, interestingly, I think this film is again a metaphor for another fairy tale, which is Beauty and the Beast. This woman comes into this man's life, who is like this in his castle, living out this life, cursed life. And this woman has to come and almost take him out of this curse, which was his mother's curse, and has to replace it with her own life.
Wow!
And make a man out of this beast.
Has PTA ever referred to that in interviews?
No, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so, because I've never heard that.
Yeah.
Wow, fascinating, Vinit. I love that.
Hai
I love it. Guys, Phantom Thread, please dekhiye zarur. This is going to be a 6-hour long video. Now we come to the next theme, which is chosen families, surrogate families, which is again a very obvious theme that you see in all his films. That's the central plot line of Hard Eight. Sydney kind of adopts John, played by John C. Reilly. Even right up till the end, he says that you don't worry about money. You abscond after a murder has taken place. You go, run away. I will take care of the money.
Yeah.
And not just for John, he feels that way for Clementine as well. Another girl he wants to protect and love.
Similar thing in Boogie Nights. He leaves his family, his blood family, and finds shelter in the surrogate family of these professional porn stars.
So that is really the central plotline of the both the first films that he's made. Can you believe it? When you look at it, you're like, both the films are about the same thing, about finding a family. Magnolia.
Not much finding a father. Like Surrogate Family is more like finding individual paternal figure. So I
Sure.
won't say a surrogate family theme is much explored in Magnolia.
Yeah.
Neither in Punch Drunk Love. Punch Drunk Love is
Punch Drunk Love is about running away from your family.
Running away from the family, in fact. There will be blood. There will be blood. Has an aspect of it, like
sure. Yes.
The man he meets tells him that he's his brother.
Also, HW is not his son. HW
is not his son.
He chooses HW to be his son. It is a testament to how PTA has designed this film, that when I was watching it, and every scene with the child is softened because of the presence of the child. Because this plain view is just such a rugged and raw and like masculine man, but when the child is in the frame is just kind of softened and things like that. And then later on, he literally goes ahead to say this, that this is why I kept you around, because you made it easier. You make me look
absolutely. Anybody who wants to revisit the film, just notice every time PTA cuts to HW. This very stark, noticeable close-ups of him in the middle of a heated conversation or a tough negotiation. There's always a cut on his face.
Because later on, he's going to reveal that Plainview had this child with him so he could come across as a family man and make better deals. And that's what the film kind of makes you feel right from the beginning, without really telling you that that's what it's making you feel.
The master, same again, unknowingly or unintentionally, Freddy Krueger finds a surrogate family. But at the same time, as I said earlier, the more love he feels like he's getting, the more repelled he feels from the family itself.
Inherent Vice is not so much about a surrogate family or a chosen family. It is kind of like a buddy cop movie almost.
I don't know what
in a manner of speaking, a cop and a private investigator come together to solve a case. It's kind of like a buddy cop film, but again, subverting the genre entirely. But you see a little bit of chosen family aspect there when you realize where Shasta is and how she's living with this man who also has a wife, who also has a boyfriend, and they're all living together as a family. So a little bit of that, but not too much. Phantom Thread, I wasn't sure, because Phantom Thread, they're so like exclusive. Cyril controls everything about Reynolds Woodcock, that it's not really about them looking for a family. They're very happy as a family. They're just looking again for personality.
In fact, it's more about keeping intact the family, the pure nature of the family together.
Now I'm gonna bring in this documentary that you can. That's the other film that is legally available to watch in India. It's called Junun. It's on MUBI, exclusively released on MUBI. It is Paul Thomas Anderson in India. He was documenting Radiohead's guitarist Johnny Greenwood and his collaborator on all his films since There Will Be Blood. Johnny Greenwood has made all the music of his films since There Will Be Blood. This other musician, Shai Ben Zur, and a group of Manganiyar musicians, they come together and they've recorded this album in an old castle in Rajasthan. The album's called Junun. It's available on Spotify and etc. You should check it out. It's really great. And Paul Thomas Anderson is just shadowing them and making this documentary. Which also is about a chosen family, because these are all different kinds of people coming together to, just to kind of in love and in respect. Yeah. Moving on to our next theme, sexual promiscuity. Mm-hmm. And it's never a good thing. He shows a lot of sexual promiscuity in his films, but people who are sexually promiscuous always have trouble. It's the troubled people who are sexually promiscuous.
I'm not very sure about reaching to that conclusion. What he's trying to portray is like an aspect, the sexual promiscuity as an aspect in building a character. Gwyneth Paltrow's character, who's sexually promiscuous, that particular character aspect becomes a catalyst for the story.
Yeah. Clementine in Hard Eight.
Clementine in Hard Eight. Boogie Nights, I'm not sure sexual promiscuity is their profession. And at no point in the film, anybody is having sex for pleasure or as a means of love.
Except that character who shoots himself and his wife. William H. Macy. Little
William
Bill.
H. Macy.
Yeah. So his wife is promiscuous.
His wife is.
Yes. She's just having sex with anybody, and then he kills her.
Yeah.
So again, PTA is punishing promiscuity.
But apart from that, other characters do not show that.
Correct. So again, see, he's saying that within the profession also. Within the profession, even if your profession is about having sex on camera, that is the work you do, and I respect that. But within that also, he's punishing promiscuity.
Yeah, definitely. In this one, yes. Magnolia, he's making a quite clear judgment on TJ Mackey's character.
Yeah.
The way he asks men to be promiscuous and use women for their own advantage.
Yeah.
However, the way this character develops, we do not know whether the character changed that particular aspect of his character.
We don't know if there's an internal journey there. But then again, it's the other character played by Philip Baker Hall, his collaborator on many films, Jimmy Gator. He's promiscuous.
Jimmy Gator.
There are many scenes of him being promiscuous.
He's not only promiscuous, but he's outright
evil. He's a bad guy.
Evil.
Yeah, and he gets punished. He gets punished.
He does get punished
in many ways. Yeah. His wife leaves him. His daughter has left him. He tries to shoot himself, but instead he burns his whole house down. So again, he's punishing promiscuity there, Vinit. There is a pattern. You agree with me or not?
There is definitely a pattern.
But PTA does not endorse sexual promiscuity, and he punishes it.
As his movies goes from his younger days to more mature days, that aspect evolves and grew in a different way. In Punch Drunk Love onwards, he does punish. I won't say punish. What's happening in Punch Drunk Love is a very interesting aspect. Like, he doesn't have a woman in his life, so he thinks a simple sex call is one way to have some sort of a connection.
But then he gets punished now for this because his sister is trying to set him up.
That's a wrong thing. That's a wrong thing that happened with him. He's not being promiscuous. Number one. All right. He's just trying to find a connection. The guy knows no good. He's incapable of speaking to a woman in front of him. So yeah, I don't know if he's punished or not, but definitely cheated.
There will be blood में तो कोई है ही नहीं. कोई मतलब वो एक दूसरा character आता है उसका, his brother.
His brother
goes to brothels and then he gets punished because he gets killed. See?
But that's not, he's not punished for that reason.
Correct. No, he's not punished for this reason, but the film punishes him. He's punished because that is one of the character. It's a vice. It's a character flaw that PTA sees very clearly, I think.
Yeah. There's more. There's more to that. That's what I'm saying.
अरे हम patterns ढूंढ रहे हैं यार अभी. We are doing archaeologists digging कर रहे हैं अभी हम.
The Master, definitely. That's his redemptive. Turns out to be his redemptive character.
Yeah.
If he is not promiscuous, he is not Freddy Quill. Ultimately, he has to go back to that particular aspect of his character.
I hated him so much.
I love Freddy Quill.
So much.
One of the best characters.
Inherent Vice में तो मतलब it's called Inherent Vice. Because Shasta is Inherent Vice. We find out in the end that she was labeled as Inherent Vice, and it's all about sexual promiscuity for material gain or some kind of void filling. All the characters, right?
So yeah, maybe
very obvious. Phantom Thread is not so much about promiscuity as it is about his inability.
His inability to recognize or accept the fact that he can love and have a loving relationship.
When PTA's new film comes out, to find all these patterns in his new film, it'll be so interesting to see कि क्या repeat हो रहा है. अगले पे आते हैं Battle of the Alphas or Clash of Egos as the undoing of man. You know, he likes putting alphas together. He enjoys that. He likes to see what happens when two alphas come together against each other. Sydney is the main alpha in the film, but then when he meets Samuel L. Jackson, who's the other alpha, it becomes the undoing of both of them. Both literally and metaphorically destroy each other.
In Hard 8, even in Boogie Nights, it's all about trying to get an upper hand in the industry.
Yeah.
Dirk Diggler, all of a sudden, who was a nobody, figures out that he can have a bigger say. He can have his own things.
Correct.
Whereas this great old timer who wants to change things and who wants to become this artist, his quest of becoming an artist is shattered by this one young kid on the block who doesn't know better. So yes, it's an age-old writing thing. Like, if you want the best drama to come out, put out two strongest people against each other who wants the same thing. Magnolia, I'm not very much sure. Number one, is an ensemble, so there are no people going head to head in a very traditional sense. Definitely, the scene between TJ Mackey and the interviewer is one way you can that aspect is present in that sequence, which is in terms of editing just fantastic. It's a 25-30 minute long sequence, in which we are jumping from one place to the other. There is this guy, the kid at the quiz show, he wants to pee but he can't go. While if there's that tension going, Philip Baker's character is having some sort of a heart attack, and while that is all going on, he's been interrogated by this interviewer about his past life.
Darkest secrets are coming out.
Exactly. So it boils to this tension filled, one of the best, most tension filled sequence ever. Those 30 minutes in Magnolia.
He uses this susu as a tension building device on more than one occasion. He also does this in Boogie Nights. When you meet Roller Girl, she's rolling away because she has to pee. It's really nice to build tension that, like, if I don't do it right now, things are going to go wrong. And it's just a little device. It's a little device, but it's so effective. Punch Drunk Love mein to nahi hai. Alphas kahan hai?
It is there. There is alpha. Philip Seymour Hoffman and Barry.
But Barry's not an alpha. Barry's a...
See, that's the thing. Barry's entire quest to become is this alpha so that he can take Philip Seymour Hoffman's character on. It's almost, as we look at it from the point of view of like aspect of Popeye. Like Popeye is not alpha till he has that his spinach and then he can fight Brute. It's the same thing with Barry as well. That love is the thing that is his spinach. So when he goes and faces Philip Seymour Hoffman at the end, he says, "I have so much love in me that I can destroy you," or something like that.
I have a great love.
This entire film builds to this one confrontation.
But Alphas is most prominent in Devil Be Blood because Daniel Plainview going against Eli Sunday is as battle of the egos as it can get.
To twist the knife in the wound, what happens later in the film that many people sort of miss out on this aspect, that Eli Sunday becomes a family member of Daniel Plainview.
Correct.
Because his sister marries his
HW.
HW. The reason he hates Eli the most is because he sees himself in Eli. And that's why he can understand the threat that he can become.
Correct. Takes one to know one.
And that's why there's always an antagonistic approach to every single thing.
Paul Dano doesn't get a lot of love for There Will Be Blood. Doesn't. Because, it's Daniel Day-Lewis that you're competing against. But Paul Dano is exquisite in this film. He is so good. And he has a double role. He appears as his own brother for one scene in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then he becomes his own twin brother. And that they're both never together in the same scene.
Never together. It's this fantastic scene when he goes to Sunday Ranch, Daniel Plainview and HW. And they're just trying to sift through what they have to make tent and everything. Eli Sunday comes with wood. It's a single take. It's a slow dolly track in, and at no point he cuts to Daniel's confused face, but just that physical exchange, body language exchange between Daniel Plainview and Eli Sunday, that he's gonna mistrust this person throughout his time in Sunday Ranch now.
Yeah,
because he was never told that he has a twin brother. Does he really has a brother, or was that a different person? And is he playing a trick? His mistrust towards Eli is planted, and it just grows after that.
And it makes him creepier also. That there is this person who looks identically like you. And this is what Anand Gandhi said to me when I asked him that why were there randomly twins in Tumbad who we never see again. Vinayak has twin daughters and we never see those daughters again. And he said, because twins are creepy. It is such an oddity to have two people who look exactly the same. It's creepy. Then coming on to Battle of the Alphas, the Master, I didn't think it was in between the Master and Freddy, because Freddy is extremely submissive. Master breaks him down and makes him submissive. So I didn't think that was a...
No, it is. Especially when that particular scene, when he's like in that
Well, he's an
big room
alpha,
and
but
he's
like he's
walking
only
from
pretending to be an alpha. He's not an alpha. He doesn't want to be an alpha. He wants to be in a team. He doesn't want to lead. He's a lone wolf, but he doesn't want to lead. He doesn't want people to follow him. He wants to be left alone.
Yeah, but
and be told what to
absolutely. And that's the thing. Like, he's fighting against this person in his own way, who thinks what's good for him. It's a battle of egos. It's a battle of ideas and ideology. Alpha in a traditional sense, no, but the Master is also not a traditional film. The traditional definitions of alpha and everything may not apply to this movie.
By this time, half the people who are watching us have left. Inherent wise, there is alpha. That's obvious. Bigfoot is
Josh Brolin,
total as
Bigfoot
alpha as they come, and Doc, who's again like his own master. Phantom Thread, Reynolds Woodcock versus Alma versus Cyril. It's a three-way.
Versus Cyril.
It's a triangle. So they're all three alphas.
Reynolds Woodcock, what he's actually looking for is the pattern that he has set for himself. Cyril Woodcock is an enabler. Her biggest priority is the business and taking care of what Reynolds wants. And then Alma is the one who refuses to comply to that pattern. And again, as it's alluded to the Beauty and the Beast aspect, that she's the one who says, like, this is the pattern, may have been followed for a long, but now it has to change. There's a masochistic aspect to Phantom Thread also. In that entire relationship, the romantic relationship that Alma wants to have with Reynolds Woodcock, it's not that she wants to be the alpha in that relationship, but what she wants is Reynolds not to be this controlling and an absent figure in that relationship.
Yeah.
So what she does in a way is control him so that she can serve him later.
When she opens up, you find out that, oh, she's not the sweet little girl that we thought she was. She is an alpha and she's going to take him down.
Yeah.
Another theme that we see is longing and desperation for lost glory. In Hard 8, not so much, because Sydney is happy and content with where his life is right now. He's not desperate to go back to his old gangster ways. But definitely in Boogie Nights, Jack Horner doesn't like the way the film industry is moving. He doesn't want to shoot on digital. He wants to continue making his porn movies on film. Also, like, he wants to continue to remain the king. And then later on, Dirk Diggler wants to continue to remain the most profitable porn star. So there's definitely that.
But I would like to add on that, in the sense, like, it's not just longing and desperation for the lost glory, but it's more about is like characters caught in a transitioning time. Jack Horner is in a time when the porn industry is moving from film to digital.
Transitioning, yeah.
And he has no idea how to deal with that.
The 70s are transitioning into the 80s also in Boogie Nights.
Yeah. Similarly, in Inherent Vice, Doc doesn't know how to cope with the new politically charged America of the 70s compared to the hippie-filled, acid-driven 60s. So he's still not. The times have moved on, but he hasn't. In There Will Be Blood, he's the catalyst, like, of the changing time. Daniel Plainview, the era of industrialization. He's surfing on that wave, almost like an enabler for the changing times. Similarly, in Phantom Thread, another person who's not able to cope to the changing times, like fashion industry. Yeah, chic. What the hell is that word, chic? Similar master from the World War II coming out and post-World War II times. Freddie doesn't know how to cope
being able
with
to adjust with a new thing.
Yeah. So that I think is the more prominent theme of
That's true.
Aspect of time and characters caught in a transitioning time.
Correct. Same for even for Eli Sunday in There Will Be Blood. He just cannot adjust to the fact that there is this new person and there's a new industry that he's brought with him, and he completely
because capitalism is going to take over the religion.
Another thing that PTA does when he's talking about vocations in his films is that he looks at all vocations with a lot of respect, appreciates the hard work that it takes to do anything. In Hard 8, he really painstakingly shows you that gambling is a real profession, and he makes a proper show of it. There's a whole bank heisty kind of scene where he teaches John how to dupe the casino into giving him a free room and dinner for the night. Boogie Nights, very similarly, immense respect for the porn film industry and the way it functions and all the nuts and bolts of it. Magnolia the most, because all the characters, almost all the characters, except maybe Julianne Moore, who's just shown to be a trophy wife, all the characters are defined by their professions in Magnolia. There is the dying old man.
John C. Reilly is my favorite. The way he describes his profession and the ethics and his
how he's not good at it, and he wants to be better.
It's just fantastic to see, and the naivety and the innocence with which he approaches his profession.
In an ensemble film like that, there is very limited space to develop characters and backstories and things like that. Here in Magnolia, every character is first defined by their profession, and then who they are as people a little bit more. TJ Mackey, profession. The cop, profession. The Wonder Kid, profession. The only thing he's ever done of any repute is win a quiz show, and then he becomes a salesman. The TV producer, the TV presenter, they are all that, and then who they are as people behind the scenes.
Even that depiction of a profession, and There Will Be Blood, that fantastic 15-minute opening sequence, profound loneliness in that entire profession, because here is a man 30-40 feet from the ground, digging and just hitting on this wall for days and days and days and days to just get some sort of success that he has no idea whether he will have or not. And nobody is even aware of his existence. Just imagine if you have put that much amount of effort into making wealth. It almost makes you believe in yourself to a level of God status. The more difficult the job and the more accomplished task he does in that difficulty, the bigger he thinks of himself.
Even in Punch Drunk Love, Barry is not a high-flying career man, but he loves his job and he does it with full sincerity, and he likes what he does.
Full sincerity.
It is the central plot in The Master, this Scientology-like cult. There's a lot of faith and a lot of love amongst the people who run it. And also, PTA is not looking down upon it. He's just showing it to you and then leaving you to decide what you make of it. It also talks about the extra love and care and attention World War II soldiers need when they come back from their jobs, and how it is their jobs that destroy them as people.
In an interview, he said why does it have to be necessarily that I have to criticize Scientology if I'm making a movie on Scientology? If it helps you reach to some sort of truth, please go ahead.
Inherent Vice goes the other way. Inherent Vice is actually showing you that all jobs are stupid. Everything is pointless.
Uselessness of certain jobs. What happens when you are incompetent within your job?
The cop is incompetent. Doc is incompetent as a PI. The dentist is incompetent. He's running tax fraud and a sex racket potentially, probably. Phantom Thread, obviously, Woodcock's work is sacred to him. He himself is secondary. तो उसके बारे में तो क्या ही बोलोगे, तो अपने आप को ही
नहीं. The details with which the entire profession is depicted is just mind-blowing. There are close-ups in the film where he's sewing a label which has personalized message on it. And we can see on the thumb when for the years and years of work hardens your thumb, and then there are those peeled skin. In those close-ups is so evident, that level of detail in depicting the profession is just fantastic.
And also, again, coming back to the documentary, Junun looks at all the Manganiar musicians and Johnny Greenwood and Shai Benzer. And even there's a guy whose job is to either feed the pigeons or get rid of the pigeons. But he's also talking about how this is a generational vocation and how his father did this before him and his grandfather did this before him. When he takes you into a market to repair a musical instrument, I think it's a harmonium or I don't know what it is, but they're repairing it and it's shown with so much love that look at the precision with which this work is happening. So he's very respectful of all jobs, except perhaps in Inherent Vice. Then the next thing is the interconnected nature of life and our shared humanity. Hard Eight, maybe not so much, because Hard Eight, it's not a coincidence that their lives are connected. It is very calculated.
He's actively looking for him.
In Boogie Nights, you see coincidences when you kind of meet the guy who used to torment roller girl in school, and then they pick him up later. So that is a little interconnected.
Coincidence, which is then explored in Magnolia in your face way. Definitely. But I think after Magnolia, this particular aspect of chance encounter, coincidences, is best used in The Master. Lancaster Dodd and Freddie Quill. There's no way these two lives can intersect. A wandering, unhinged sailor and a man who's trying to form some sort of a religion on ground. There was no reason, but they do by a chance encounter and change each other.
Also in Inherent Vice, he explores this in a more like tongue-in-cheek, funny manner, that every case that comes to him is connected to the Wolfman business empire somehow.
That you expect in an investigative thriller in a traditional sense anyway. So it's a part of the genre itself. So there's no running away from that.
The way he explores this in Magnolia, though, is fascinating. The way you find out that all these stories and all these lives are interconnected. The only person perhaps who's not connected to a secondary storyline is Philip Seymour Hoffman's character. He is just a nurse. There is, I don't think, a connection with him.
What happens in Magnolia in the first 10 minutes, the way it's built up, look at these coincidences reach to this conclusion. Greenberry Hall is the name of the store. Greenberry and Hall are the people who will kill. Coincidence reaches to a conclusion. What he's subverting is that exactly pattern in the entire story. Like the way the story progresses in our head, we want to see some sort of a culmination, a romantic conclusion of all these stories coming together. Certain stories will have coincidences, but certain stories will not. And don't look for it when it is not. If you are thinking the most traditional thing, I'm going to rain frogs. The most unexpected thing to happen. And that's the subversion of that film. Planting a setup with coincidences and a logical conclusion out of those coincidences, and then building, going on the same pattern and trying to tell you, okay, these are the lives, and these are the lives. They have connection within themselves, but on a global level, they might now at that moment, but we feel like by the end of the film they will. And Paul says, no, this is it. They're not all going to come together. And that's in a way is the subversion of what Robert Altman's story used to do, and he flipped it in Magnolia fantastically. And that's what I love the most about the film.
What do you think about the harmonium, which shows up in Punch Drunk Love?
I don't know. I put a lot of thought into it, but I can never understand what that harmonium helped in the story. In what way? I have no idea.
The last most obvious pattern that we found in PTA films, there are other non-obvious ones, but the last obvious one is a troubled childhood that you see in almost all the films. You see this in Hard 8 when you find out later on that John did not have a father. His father was killed by Sydney. Then you also see this in Boogie Nights. Dirk is 17 when he's kicked out of his house. When he's he's a young waiter, he's trying to make money, and he's a child and he's troubled, and then he becomes a porn star because he wants to be famous and he wants to be rich. You also see this in Magnolia, very much so. In Claudia's plotline, where you later find out that she was molested by her father. That's what led her to a life of drugs. That's what led her to a life of unhappiness. TJ Mackey had an unhappy childhood because his father walked out on them, and he had to take care of his mother. Then there's an actual child who shows up who tries to help the cop, and then we see him later on robbing Julianne Moore. Then find out in Punch Drunk Love about Barry, how throughout his childhood his sisters called him gay boy because he was just not macho or masculine, so they tormented him as a child. Do you want to talk about There Will Be Blood?
There Will Be Blood. That's the beauty about There Will Be Blood, that we have no idea about Daniel Plainview's past. So did he have a troubled childhood? No one knows. What made him drive to this extreme competitive level? Nobody knows. We enter in his life in his late 30s, and from that point on, we are just following him. So past trauma.
You meet HW. HW has childhood issues.
Does he? He has childhood trouble. He gets childhood issues when he goes deaf.
Yeah, and then his father abandons him and then tries to reconnect with him, and then he just scares him.
Absolutely, but that's the thing. What I'm trying to say is like how much of the troubled childhood helps the ghost of the past. If I say more than the troubled childhood, how does ghost of the past help build a character? because the ghost of the past with the sisters helps Barry's current state of mind. Same in Boogie Nights, same in Hard Eight.
HW, you meet only later on as a grown adult.
Absolutely, but that's the thing. It's not a story about HW.
It's it isn't. It's a pattern. It's a pattern. Exactly. Whatever child you meet in the film will not be a happy child, or any allusion to childhood of any character will not be a happy childhood, even if you don't meet them when they're children.
Which definitely is there in the same aspect, not necessarily childhood, but Ghost of the Past is present in both Phantom Thread and
Master,
especially in Phantom Thread. But again, there is a mysterious nature about the past of these two brother sisters. Yes, they lost a mother, but they definitely did not have a economically troubled childhood. So how did that shape them up? Because they are not only brother and sister, but they are business partners also.
Correct.
Leslie Manville's character is clearly the CEO, and especially with that fantastic close-up at the start of the film when she looks straight in the camera. That beautiful line when she says, I do not want to hear it because it hurts my ears.
Yes, it hurts my ears.
People don't give props to how funny Paul Thomas Anderson films are. Phantom Thread is extremely witty. So
Phantom Thread is damn funny, yeah. With that scene in particular when she comes in and with the chai, and then he says, I don't want chai. And then she's like, fine, main ja rahi hu. And then he says, chai to ja rahi hai, but disturbance to nahi reh gayi. It is so funny. Now, wow, finally we've managed to talk about the patterns that you see in all the films. But there's also another layer to it. The less obvious ones.
The less obvious pattern, first thing I would like to start. Number one is changing dynamics of female characters. Visually speaking, Paul Thomas Anderson changed the way he framed close-ups.
Crucial meetings at a cafe or a eatery or a restaurant or over a meal. Lastly, there are some oddities and absurdities in his films which I have not been able to explain. I think Paul Thomas Anderson खुद ही इसको देख के bore हो जाएगा. If he watches it, he'll be like,
I know.
Yeah, I'm going to split it into 5 parts and be like, now we are talking about father-son relationship. In this part, we are talking about biblical references.
You want to do this fun thing before we end? How to approach Paul Thomas Anderson filmography for somebody who has not yet been into it?
Okay, so there are various ways that you can approach a PTA cinematic universe.